Government class. I'm Ms. Wokomatamno. Today, we'll be looking at the theme Public Administration and the topic Personal Administration in the Civil Service. And so at the end of our lesson, I expect that you should be able to discuss about the Civil Service Commission and also know their functions. So you should be able to examine the functions of the Civil Service Commission and also the relationship. You should be able to identify the relationship between the civil servants and the political executives. And I remember in our previous lesson, we said that the political executives are, in civil service, are the ministers at the federal level and commissioners at the state level. Now let's go into our lesson for today. In the world today, every group or organization desires to have a body or a form of personal administration, which simply means a human resource management that will help them manage the persons or personnel available in that organization to carry out their duties effectively. And this is important because when this is well done, you get a very high output or effective output from the personnel working in such organizations. And then at last, they help to achieve the goals of that organization or company, firm, or any parastatals they belong to optimally. Now, the civil service as a body has a form of personal administration, which is in the hands of the Civil Service Commission. So what it simply means is this organization is being managed, or their resources, the people working there, their conditions, their working conditions, and even things they need to carry out their own tasks or duties effectively are being managed by the Personnel Administration. Now, what is the Civil Service Commission? The Civil Service Commission is an independent and a non-partisan body set up by the government to do two important things. One is to manage and then to regulate the working condition of civil servants. In our previous class, we said civil servants are those who are being employed impartially into civil service. And so the Civil Service Commission is the body that is given that responsibility to recruit, promote, and also discipline the civil servants so that they will have an organized organization, company, firm, and also have the works and conditions of their staffs or the personnel working in those organizations carried out effectively, or managed and regulated effectively. Now, the process of recruiting, employing, the process of also dismissing people, appointing, and promoting civil servants differ from one country to the other. For instance, in Britain, the Civil Service Commission, their recruits is based on the quality of the candidate's university degree. And then they make use of interviews and informal tests rather than formal tests to recruit members into civil service. But then in a country like Nigeria, or let's say most countries, including Nigeria, where the civil service is given the responsibility to recruit, employ, and promote the civil servants, they base their own recruits on the merit system. And so that's why you see things like people writing examinations when it comes to getting a job in civil service. You see people writing examinations, you see people going for interviews. That's because that's one way the Civil Service Commission that regulates the civil service gets qualified members or qualified persons to gain such positions in the public office. And then they also believe that the candidate must prove his or herself to be suitable for that public office and have a good educational qualification. Now, the civil service is made up of a chairman and other members. But these people mentioned are being appointed by the president or the governor, as the case may be. Where it gets to the federal level, the president appoints. And when it gets to the state level, the governor appoints. Now, the president or the governor still have power to remove these members, be it the chairman or the other members of the commission, on the basis of misconduct. So where there is a misconduct on the part of this commissioner or the members, the president or the governor can actually lay them off or remove them from the office. But in doing that, he must be backed up with a 2/3 majority of members in the Senate before such can be carried out. Now, having known what the Civil Service Commission is about, I'd like us to know some key points about the Civil Service Commission. One is that the Civil Service Commission is set up primarily to recruit, to promote, and to also discipline civil servants. So they do all of this, and at the end, where civil servants go contrary or against the code of conduct of the service, they are being punished. When they do good things, they are being promoted. And of course, when they pass on merit, they are being recruited. And then also the commission is free or independent of all political influence and is not subject to the government and the civil service as a whole. As a result of this, they get to carry out their duties independent of any government, political parties, or even the civil service. So when it gets to recruiting, promoting, or even disciplinary measures on a civil servant, they do it based on their discretion and the laws available to them. Another thing to note is that the commission promotes the values of civil service. These values are integrity, honesty, and uprightness. So these three key points are things I'd like you to note about the Civil Service Commission. The Civil Service Commission doesn't just exist like that in the organization or in civil service as a whole. The commission actually carries out different functions. And these functions, we'll be looking at some of them, which are recruitment, transfer, promotion, discipline, advice. And remember, we said that the Civil Service Commission is concerned with the management of the human resources in civil service. So it's more of being concerned with the management or managing civil servants within their job space or their offices. Let's look at these functions one after the other. The first is recruitment. One primary function of the Civil Service Commission is that it recruits or employs qualified, skilled, and well-experienced people in order to help the civil service provide or carry out their duties to the government effectively and also have an impact in the nation on the other hand. And this is mostly done by written examinations and interviews. We remember we had said in the case of Britain, they really do not do the formal way of writing their examinations. Rather, they do the informal way. But for example, in Nigeria, we do the written examinations and interview. That's the reason why you get to see when they put up adverts or people are going in for jobs in the civil service. You get to hear, oh, there's a date for examination. You get to hear there's a date for interview. This is all done so that qualified persons can actually be sieved out and then given job opportunities. Their examinations could be based on the electronic kind of examination or even manual. It just depends on the particular commission that is carrying out that examination or interview. Another function is transfer. In civil service, the civil servants can actually be transferred from one department to another. And the body that takes care of that is the commission. So they are responsible for carrying out the movement or transfer of civil servants from one ministry to the other, or one department to the other. And then the function of promotion. In civil service, there's promotion. We talked about the hierarchy. How do people actually get to the top? Because, of course, we know that the highest, which is the administrative class, have people there working at that level. And so have you ever wondered how they got to that point? It was as a result of being promoted from one stage or one class to the other. However, I'd like us to think of the body that does this. It's the Civil Service Commission. They carry out that duty. They ensure that qualified persons are being promoted to suitable offices where they can effectively carry out their duties. So they promote civil servants from one level or class to another. Maybe let's say from the executive class. Now the person goes up to the administrative class. It's promotion. And that's how it's done in the civil service by the Civil Service Commission. Another function the Civil Service Commission carries out is discipline. We know discipline comes as a result of when one does wrong or goes against certain rules. And then in civil service, there are some stipulated rules and regulations, code on conduct, or terms and conditions that are given to bind or to guide the activities of the civil servants. Now, this Civil Service Commission issues out disciplinary measures that goes to anyone that goes against these codes of conduct or these codes and ethics of the civil service, which is also known as general order. And so the code and ethics or terms and conditions in the civil service is known as general order. Another function is advice. The Civil Service Commission is also made up of very reputable people, well experienced and skilled in their various capacities. And as a result of that, they are able to also give relevant inputs or advice to the government concerning different matters, especially in appointment of qualified persons suitable to occupy certain public offices. You see that they are the ones that give the government advice or then make suggestions or opinions to the government, which are listened to. Haven't seen the functions of the Civil Service Commission, which has shown that the civil servants are being affected as well as the political executives. I'd like us to see the relationship between the civil servants and the political executives. The civil servants are those who work in civil service, while the political executives are persons like the ministers in the federal level and commissioners in the state level. And we know that when these political executives come up, they come up by reason of being appointed into such ministries or departments as their head. I remember in our previous lesson, we talked about how the ministers are the heads of the ministry. A ministry is just a government organization that is headed by a minister. And so in the state level is the commissioner. Now, these people rule as head. However, there are others below or beneath them in other categories. People like the permanent secretary, directors, and so on. So these people, we want to look at the relationship between the ones that actually are being groomed or that grow with the ministry and those that are just brought in. Most likely, we must know that these people, commissioners and ministers that come on board, are people, once again, that are being appointed by either the governor or the president of a country. And so most times, they really do not have so much information or ideas about the ministry they lead. One vital factor for the success and development of a ministry is the relationship between the civil servant, a senior civil servant especially, and the political executives. Now, the political executives are seen as the masters of the civil service. And so they are the masters to the civil servants. Now, constitutionally, the civil servants are to take directives, instructions from the political executives, which are the commissioners or ministers, irrespective of the fact that, of course, they have stayed longer in that ministry than the political executives. And, of course, they even have more information, more knowledge, and are more exposed and more experienced in that ministry than them. Notwithstanding all of these features, the civil servants, they are to still respect and take instructions and directives from the ministers or the commissioners of that ministry. Now, the minister or the commissioner, of course, which we know is unlikely to be a civil servant, and as a result of this, is also to listen to the civil servants based on their own experiences too. The civil servant has detailed knowledge, of course, of the ministry or of the department, and they are in the right position to give very valid information or advice to the ministers, and then also pass on useful information to the ministers or commissioners, as the case may be, federal or state level. One other thing the civil servant does is that he provides vital information about the department for continuance and effective running of the department or ministry. Like we had said, the civil service, it's more relatively permanent. And so as time goes on, they must have had different information, different projects and policies they would have carried out. And as a result of all of this, they would have gotten a whole lot of experience. So when new political executives come in, what they do is that they actually pass on these vital information for continuance and effective running of the government. So the political executives, the ministers and commissioners, look up to these civil servants for advice concerning even their works. Most times they come and they really do not know the roles they are to play. Who helps them out? The civil servants actually helps them to tell them what they are to do. In advising and telling them what to do, in advising and telling the ministers or commissioners on what to do in the ministry or department, the extent to which that advice goes is based on the nature of the advice and also based on the personalities involved. Now, there are times where we have people that are quite adamant. A political executive that comes in with laid down things on his mind, how he wants to do things, you find out that he will find it difficult accepting advice and even a way forward from the civil servants. But one that comes with a teachable heart, ready to learn, to know more, and to move the department or ministry forward, will want to listen to the advice, weigh the advices, and then try to pick the best one and run ahead with it. And so the decision is either based on the nature of the decision, like this. So here we get to see someone who listens to advice and someone that is with a very strong determination, prepared mind, and is not really ready to listen to the advice given to him or her about the ministry or the department. And this can cause a whole lot of issues or problems because as a result of being adamant or trying not to listen to advices, you might actually, to an extent, lose some information, and then you might not really effectively rule or direct or lead the ministry or department as you should. So it is vital that we listen. Well, I'd like to say we've come to the end of today's lesson, but before we go, I'd like us to take a quick recap on all we've learned today. We looked at the Civil Service Commission, and we saw it as an independent body set up by the government to recruit, to promote, and also to discipline the civil servants in the civil service. And then we saw that the appointment of individuals into civil service by the commission is based on what? On merit. Good. And so you see people write exams, go through interviews and their likes to gain appointments or to gain jobs into the civil service. And we also saw that the commission is one that is separated or isolated from political influence, government influence, and even civil service. So they rule, they recruit, they promote, and even carry out their other functions without being influenced by any political party or the government. And then we saw that the commission is made up of a chairman and other members who are being appointed by, we said, the president or the governor. And then the commission, we looked at the different functions the commission carries out in the civil service, where we said the commission recruits staffs. The commission also transfers them from one department to the other or from one ministry to the other. We looked at also promotion, how the commission promotes civil servants from one level to another. And then advice, how they also advise the government on suitable persons, experienced persons for certain positions in the public offices. And then the discipline. They also roll out disciplinary measures for people who do not observe, obey, or heed to the code and ethics of the civil service, which you said is also known as what? General order. We also saw how the civil servant takes directives from the minister or commissioner, who, of course, is seen as the leader or the head of the ministry, who depends on him for advice to promote the smooth running of the government. The civil servants being one to take directives, instructions from the political executive, and in turn, the political executives depend on them to gain more information, get more experience, and then run the department or ministry effectively, which will also help the government to administer rightly. Well, I hope you understood a whole lot. You learned a whole lot from today's lesson, because I actually did. But before we go, I'd like us to have a quick test on what we learned today, Civil Service Commission. The question reads, which of this is not true about the Civil Service Commission? Which of this is not true about the Civil Service Commission? A, Civil Service Commission is not subject to government in carrying out its duties. B, the Civil Service Commission ensures civil servants observe the rules of the service. C, Civil Service Commission has a chairman who is elected by the people. All right, the right answer is C, because we were told that the civil service is isolated from the political parties and even the government, and they are not subject to them in any way. In the course of them carrying out their duties, they do not depend on them or they are not being subject to them. We also saw that the Civil Service Commission ensures civil servants observe the rules of the service, whereby we talked about them having terms and conditions or codes and conducts that guide them and their activities in the civil service. And those that go against them, we know that the Civil Service Commission gives out some disciplinary measures to correct them or to put them right. And so we said the answer, the Civil Service Commission has a chairman who is elected by the people, is wrong, because we're taught that the Civil Service Commission has a chairman and other members who are elected by the president in the federal level or the commissioner at the state level and not by the people. All right, let's take the second question. The question reads, which of these is not a function of the Civil Service Commission? A, it promotes civil servants to higher levels. B, it appoints a chairman for the commission. And C, it advises the minister and commissioners. So which of this is not a function of the Civil Service Commission? Okay. The right answer is B. Because in the course of our class, we learned that the civil service promotes civil servants from one level to another, or one class to another. And then we also learned that it gives advice to the minister and commissioner, even the government, concerning certain matters. In the course of our lesson, we also learned that the chairman of the Civil Service Commission is not appointed by the commission. Rather, he's appointed by the president or a commissioner, as the case may be. This brings us to the end of today's class. Thank you. See you some other time.